Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is the sequel to Aquaman, the movie from 5 years ago. I actually quite enjoyed the first Aquaman film. It was considered like a Marvel-like tone, big bombastic crowd pleaser, really good direction. I think I own it on Blu-ray. So the sequel came out. I wasn't really excited to watch this movie, to be honest. Amber Heard's still in it, I heard. I was unemployed last year, and I was in a dark place, and I was watching a lot of the trial, and the trial was really harrowing, and it made me realize that we were all kind of wrong about Johnny Depp. So having her in the movie, I didn't really want to watch the film, but a friend of mine wanted to go, and I wanted to spend some time with my friends, so decided to go. Expectations were really low. People said the movie had a lot of negative feedback from the screenings or whatever, so I thought this movie was going to be dog shit. But to be honest, the movie isn't that bad. This movie is actually kind of entertaining, and I'll get into it. So Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom takes place a little while after the first film. We'll have a large opening sequence where Aquaman's fighting pirates, but it gets interrupted in a montage of him explaining what he does to his son, his newborn son, Arthur Jr. He's had a baby with Mera, and Atlanta still lives in Atlantis, I guess, but his father lives with them, and he's kind of helps him out. The movie's got a really awkward tone to start because you can tell that they were scared of Amber Heard being in the film, because like if you watch the trailer, she's barely in the trailers. You watch the movie, she's kind of cut out, and she's just sort of like, it's really strange because she has more than 5 minutes of screen time. She has quite a lot of screen time, but very little dialogue. She only has about like 10 lines in the movie, and she's always sort of like off to the side or just sort of in pictures and things like that, or she's holding the baby, and it's a very awkward tone. They did a lot of reshoots and editing. You can tell they butchered a lot of stuff. So the opening action sequence is kind of butchered, and then they also have this other sort of montage of him giving a voiceover about how he doesn't want to be the king, he's bored, he's got to answer to a council, and Black Manta is back. He's teaming up with Stephen Shin, played by Randall Park, and they find the Black Trident, which is like this ancient relic that will free an evil sort of black magic being that shat all over Atlantis many centuries ago, and Arthur has to stop him with the help of his brother Orm. So he breaks his brother out of the prison, and the two of them have a sort of buddy cop dynamic as they team up to stop Black Manta from unleashing a new evil on the world. So this movie, yes, the first like half an hour is a little bit slow because the first two action sequences are sort of mishmashed into a sort of montage. The movie felt like it could have been longer. It's a 2-hour film. It definitely feels like the movie could have been a bit longer, that they definitely chopped away a lot of stuff. The movie only comes to life in one really large heist sequence where Black Manta and his new crew of villains are trying to steal this element called orichalcum so they can fuel their ancient technology that they found. And so this basically is the start of the movie for me. The movie's, you got a lot of great visuals and bombastic action, visual effects. Atlanta gets a really cool action sequence. Mera gets a cool action sequence. This is where the movie sort of comes alive to me. This is where the big bombastic direction that you've seen in the first film is now starting, but it doesn't start about half an hour in the movie. And then Arthur breaks out Orm in a really quick, another sequence that seems a little bit cut down. They're talking about infiltrating this prison, and he's already at the prison. They don't have an infiltration sequence. They don't have a sort of sneaking in. There's no tension, suspense. It's just very blunt. The movie feels like it's on rush mode. It's trying to like go, 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 and it doesn't have room to breathe. But I think the real heart of this movie is Orm. Orm is a stick in the mud when he gets released. He's angry. He is very serious all the time. And he plays off Arthur really well. Jason Momoa plays him as a sort of lackadaisical, sort of dude bro, aqua bro, and Patrick Wilson is playing it very straight-laced, so he's a straight man, and Momoa is the sort of, party dude, and they work really well. They have a lot of dialogue, great character development. This is like the best part of the movie. Whenever they're on screen together, riffing, fighting, doing things is great. And then the movie sort of winds down again into another sort of bombastic, over-the-top third act with a zombie army of creatures. There's some cool Lovecraftian creatures in there too, not as big as the big one from the first movie, but there's like this Kraken-like creature that's pretty cool. And some of the other roles get expanded on a little bit. I think King Nereus gets a little bit more to do, so does Stephen Shin, and There's also some really great references. You can tell James Wan had a lot of fun with the production design. There's a lot of references to H.G. Wells type stuff, like a submarine with the crew and like their uniforms. It feels very nautical. It feels very old school. Some of the creature designs, there's these tunneling creatures. There's seahorse steeds. There's another octopus. You know, we had a drummer octopus in the first film. There's a second octopus in this. He's great. There's also this really big, the Brine King. The Brine King is great. He's like a homage to Admiral Akbar. He's like this large, over-the-top king, crawdad guy. He stole every scene he was in. He was great. There's even a Jabba the Hutt-like fish character too. The movie's a lot of fun and entertaining. Doesn't kick in for about 30 minutes. Then the rest of the movie's fine. There's only one post-credit sequence. It's really inconsequential. But overall, this is a very undemanding, entertaining, bombastic action movie. There's some great practical effects, visual effects, fight scenes, set pieces in a volcano lair. So there's a lot of, like, it's entertaining. It's not like the new classic, but the vibrant energy from the first film at least is brought to the second film. It doesn't feel drab. It's a little slow to start. Amber Heard, yeah, she's a little bit stiff in the movie because, like, a lot of her dialogue, there's a lot of awkward editing in this movie. There's a sequence where something happens to the family and they just cut to them screaming no, and it cuts to black. It's almost like they didn't have the take, so they just said, whatever, just cut to news footage or something. And I feel like David Kane's character of Manta gets a little shafted in this movie. The trailers hype him up to be the main villain, but he's actually being controlled by a sinister force, so he doesn't get to do a lot. He has a couple of great scenes, though. There's a great scene at the end. There's some fights. There's a couple of cool sequences with him when he has his own autonomy. It's great. But I feel like, you know, Black Manta should have had a little bit more agency, and he feels like he's being too controlled too much. Everything else is fine, though. The production design's fine. There's very small nitpicks here and there. It's just the only knock against the movie is that it's just like a turn off your brain kind of action, spectacle, fantasy, sci-fi, superhero flick. It's not really like, it's not connected to anything. They don't make ham-fisted references to other superheroes or the Justice League. It's just sort of a quick 2-hour adventure story. Watch it once. I was entertained. Didn't think it would be this good, but it was okay. So I gave Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom a 6 out of 10.